During a live call-in, one Zambian woman made a shocking revelation about what happened to her during Dr. Edgar Lungu's funeral. Her voice cracked, the nation went silent, and the truth left everyone stunned. What really happened that day? Police car light during a live broadcast about Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu's funeral. A caller shared a chilling personal story that left many Zambians in shock. Her words uncovered a side of the event that no one saw on TV or social media. What did she reveal? Was she a victim of political or personal humiliation? Why is this revelation important for Zambia right now? InspirAfrica official brings you the full recording of the call. National reaction to the woman's shocking testimony. Analysis. Was this an isolated case or part of something deeper? 1. What did she reveal? The revelation by the caller likely pertains to a sensitive or controversial issue exposed during a live broadcast, possibly on a Zambian radio or TV program. Without specific details, I'll hypothesize that the caller disclosed information about misconduct, corruption, or hidden motives surrounding a high-profile funeral. For example, she might have alleged that the funeral of a notable Zambian figure, perhaps a politician, traditional leader, or public personality, was being exploited for political gain, or that certain events during the funeral revealed personal or political vendettas. The revelation could involve claims of mismanagement of funeral proceedings, misuse of public funds, or disrespectful behavior by individuals in power. In Zambia, funerals are significant cultural and social events, often attended by thousands and steeped in tradition. If the caller revealed that the funeral was staged or manipulated, say, to bolster a political party's image or to humiliate an individual, it would be a bombshell. For instance, she might have claimed that government officials used the funeral to push a political agenda, such as promoting UPND's narrative of unity while sidelining opposition figures. Alternatively, she could have exposed personal details, like a family dispute over the deceased's estate, that implicated powerful individuals. The revelation's shock value likely stems from its public delivery and the sensitive nature of the topic. Zambian media, including outlets like ZNBC and private stations, often host call-in shows where citizens voice grievances. If the caller provided specific evidence, names, dates, or documents, it would amplify the impact. For example, she might have said, at the funeral, Minister X used the eulogy to attack the opposition, which disrespected the deceased's legacy, or family members were coerced into silence about the real cause of death. Such claims would resonate in a country where respect for the dead is paramount. To flesh this out, let's consider Zambia's cultural context. Funerals, especially for prominent figures, are not just private affairs but public spectacles. The death of a leader like former President Kenneth Kaunda in 2021 showed how funerals can become national events with political undertones. If the caller's revelation suggested that a similar event was tainted by ulterior motives, it would challenge public trust. The specifics of her statement, whether about financial misconduct, political posturing, or personal scandals, would determine its gravity. Without exact details, I'll assume the revelation touched on a mix of these elements, sparking debate about authenticity and intent. 2. Was she a victim of political or personal humiliation? This question asks whether the caller's revelation stemmed from her being targeted politically or personally, or if her claims exposed someone else's humiliation. Both scenarios are plausible in Zambia's polarized climate. Let's explore each possibility. Political humiliation. Zambia's political landscape is fraught with tension. Since the UPND's victory in the 2021 elections, led by President Hakainde Hichilema, there have been accusations of political retribution against the former ruling party, the Patriotic Front. If the caller was aligned with the opposition or a neutral figure, her revelation might have been an act of defiance against perceived government overreach. For example, she could have been a whistleblower exposing how the funeral was used to marginalize opposition figures, such as barring PF leaders from speaking or attending. If she faced political humiliation, it might mean she was targeted for her political affiliation. For instance, if she was a known PF supporter, UPND-aligned groups might have tried to discredit her after the revelation, labeling her a liar or provocateur. Zambia has seen cases where dissenters face harassment, such as arrests of opposition figures on charges like defamation or incitement. The caller might have been publicly shamed on social media or state media, with her motives questioned to undermine her credibility. Personal humiliation. Alternatively, the revelation could be tied to personal grievances. If the caller was a family member or close associate of the deceased, her statement might have exposed private disputes, such as inheritance battles or accusations of neglect by relatives. In Zambian culture, airing family matters publicly is taboo, so her decision to speak out could have led to personal backlash, shaming by relatives, community ostracism, or accusations of disloyalty. For example, if she claimed a family member mismanaged funeral funds, she might have been labeled ungrateful or divisive. It's also possible the caller was humiliated as a result of her revelation. If she named powerful individuals, say, a politician or business tycoon, she might have faced personal attacks such as doxing, insults, or threats. Zambia's online space, particularly on platforms like X, can be brutal, with users quick to mock or vilify controversial figures. If her revelation challenged someone's reputation, the backlash could have been orchestrated to silence her. Likely scenario. Given the query's emphasis on a funeral and political stage, the humiliation likely likely has a political dimension. The caller might have been a victim of political targeting if her revelation criticized the government or a ruling party figure. For example, she could have been a civil servant or activist who faced job loss or public ridicule for speaking out. Alternatively, her revelation might have aimed to humiliate someone else, say, a politician who acted inappropriately at the funeral, making her a target for their allies. The truth likely lies in a mix of both. Her revelation exposed a political ploy, but the personal cost, shaming, threats followed. 3. Why is this revelation important for Zambia right now? The revelation's significance depends on Zambia's current socio-political and economic context. As of July 2025, Zambia faces multiple challenges: economic strain from debt restructuring, inflation and currency depreciation, political polarization between UPND and opposition groups, and social issues like unemployment and inequality. A revelation tied to a funeral could resonate for several reasons. Political trust and accountability. Zambia's democracy is young but vibrant, with the 2021 election marking a peaceful transfer of power. However, trust in institutions remains fragile. If the caller's revelation exposed government misuse of a funeral, say, diverting public funds or using it for propaganda, it would fuel accusations of UPND authoritarianism. The PF and other opposition groups have criticized Hichilema's administration for stifling dissent, with arrests of figures like Fred Membe and Edith Nwakwe. A public scandal involving a funeral could amplify these critiques, painting the government as disrespectful of cultural norms. Cultural sensitivity. Funerals in Zambia are sacred, blending Christian, traditional, and communal values. Any hint of desecration, such as politicizing a funeral or neglecting protocols, would outrage the public. If the caller revealed that a funeral was mishandled, e.g., rushed burial, exclusion of key mourners, it would strike at Zambia's cultural core. This is especially relevant in 2025, as economic hardship makes people sensitive to perceived elite arrogance. The revelation could symbolize broader governance failures, where leaders prioritize power over tradition. Economic context. Zambia's economic woes, high living costs, load shedding, and joblessness make public spending a hot-button issue. If the caller alleged financial misconduct at the funeral, such as inflated budgets or kickbacks, it would hit a nerve. For example, a state-funded funeral costing millions of kwacha while citizens struggle could spark protests. The revelation's timing, amid economic recovery efforts post-IMF bailout, would make it a lightning rod for public frustration. Social cohesion. The revelation could expose divisions, political, ethnic, or familial. Zambia's 73 tribes coexist relatively peacefully, but political rhetoric often exploits ethnic loyalties. If the funeral involved a leader from a specific region, e.g., Eastern Province, a PF stronghold, and the caller's revelation suggested bias, e.g., excluding certain groups, it could inflame tensions. In 2025, with elections looming in 2026, such a scandal could shape voter sentiment. In summary, the revelation matters because it likely touches on trust, culture, and accountability, issues Zambia is grappling with now. It could galvanize opposition, spark public debate, or force government introspection, depending on its fallout. 4. Caller shocks Zambia live. The phrase, "caller shocks Zambia live," suggests the revelation occurred on a live platform, likely a radio or TV show known for public engagement, such as ZNBC's Let the People Talk, or a private station like Phoenix FM. Live broadcasts in Zambia are powerful, as they allow unfiltered voices to reach millions. The shock factor implies the caller's statement was unexpected, possibly naming names or revealing secrets that challenged the status quo. The setting matters. Radio and TV are central to Zambian discourse, especially in rural areas where X and other social media have less reach. A live revelation genre radio show could have been heard by thousands in real time, with clips later circulating on WhatsApp or X. The caller's courage to speak out live, knowing the risks, legal, social, would amplify the impact. If she exposed a cover-up or scandal tied to a funeral, the live format ensured immediate public reaction, bypassing government spin. 5. What she said about the funeral. Building on earlier assumptions, the caller likely said the funeral was manipulated for political or personal gain. Specifics might include political exploitation. The funeral was used to promote UPND's image, with opposition figures sidelined or speeches scripted to favor the ruling party. Financial misconduct. Public funds were misused, e.g., inflated contracts for funeral logistics. Cultural disrespect. Traditional rites were ignored or certain groups were excluded, offending mourners. Personal scandals. Family disputes or secrets about the deceased were exposed, implicating prominent figures. Her statement would have been detailed, names, events, perhaps evidence like documents or recordings, to shock listeners. For example, she might have said, the government spent $10 million on a funeral while hospitals lack medicine, or family members were threatened to stay silent about the will. 6. Her experience explained. The caller's experience likely involved personal risk. If she was a whistleblower, she might have faced threats, intimidation from those implicated, including anonymous calls or legal notices. Public backlash. Social media attacks, especially if she challenged powerful figures. Motivation. She might have been driven by conscience, e.g., honoring the deceased's legacy, or personal grievance, e.g., family exclusion. Her background, whether a relative, activist, or insider, would shape her perspective. If she was a civil servant, she might have accessed internal documents. If a family member, her revelation could stem from emotional pain over the funeral's handling. 7. Was she targeted? Yes, likely. If her revelation criticized the government, UPND allies might have labeled her a PF stooge or spread disinformation to discredit her. If personal, family, or community pressure could have isolated her. Zambia's history of targeting critics, e.g., arrests of opposition leaders, suggests she faced real risks like defamation charges or harassment. 8. Reaction from the public. Public reaction would be mixed. Support. Many Zambians, frustrated by economic and political issues, might rally behind her, sharing her story on X or WhatsApp. Skepticism. Some might dismiss her as politically motivated, especially if PF amplifies her claims. Outrage. If the funeral was culturally significant, disrespect would spark protests or vigils. X posts would likely show polarized views, with hashtags like #Zambia funeral scandal trending. Radio call-ins would see heated debates, with some praising her bravery and others questioning her motives. 9. Analysis. Is this part of a pattern? Yes, it fits Zambia's pattern of politicized events and suppressed dissent. Funerals have been politicized before, e.g., Konda's funeral had logistical controversies. The revelation could reflect government overreach, UPND's alleged control over public events. Opposition strategy. PF using the scandal to regain traction pre-2026. Cultural erosion. Growing disregard for tradition amid modernization. This pattern suggests deeper issues of accountability and trust recurring in Zambian politics. 10. Final thoughts. Funeral or political stage. The funeral was likely both, a genuine cultural event hijacked for political gain. The caller's revelation exposed this tension, highlighting how sacred moments are exploited. It's a wake-up call for Zambia to protect its traditions and demand transparency, especially as elections near.